In this video, you'll discover how we reached the point where lies became more powerful than facts, how fabricated narratives control millions of people without them realizing it, and why you might be living illusions you've never questioned. We'll reveal the invisible mechanisms that hijack your ability to think, the forces that profit from your ignorance, and the terrible price you pay for following the crowd without reflection. But most importantly, you'll learn how to escape this mental matrix, how to recover your ability to think critically, how to become immune to mass manipulation. What you're about to discover can completely change the way you see the world, the information you consume, and the beliefs you defend. Prepare yourself, because this journey requires courage. Imagine waking up in a world where truth no longer matters, where facts and fiction blend without distinction, where millions of people believe lies as if they were absolute truths. You don't need to imagine, because that world is ours. We live in an era where lies have become reality, where fabricated narratives shape opinions, where collective manipulation operates on an industrial scale. And the most frightening part? Most people don't even notice. In this video, we'll unveil how we got here, how reason collapsed, and why so many people prefer the comfort of illusions to the harshness of truth. But before we dive in, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What you're about to discover might shake your certainties. Share with those who still care about truth. Let me ask you a direct question. How many things do you believe today that could be completely false? The honest answer is, you don't know. None of us knows. We live bombarded by information 24 hours a day. News, posts, videos, theories. Your brain processes thousands of messages daily. And here's the problem. Most of them are designed not to inform, but to manipulate. Think about it. When was the last time you checked the source of information before believing it? When was the last time you actually investigated whether what seemed true was really real? If you're like most people, the answer is rarely or never, and it's not your fault. It's by design. In the 19th century, a Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard had a prophetic vision. He saw something that would frighten any thinker: the death of the individual. Kierkegaard observed people around him dissolving into the crowd, losing their identity, abandoning their capacity to think for themselves. He called this the mob, the faceless mass that follows any popular narrative. Sound familiar? It's exactly what happens today on a global scale. In his book, Diary of a Seducer, Kierkegaard showed how manipulation works. The seducer doesn't force. He creates illusions. He makes the victim believe their choices are free when in reality they're being guided. Kierkegaard had a devastating phrase: "The crowd is the lie." For him, when you dissolve into the collective, you lose the ability to see truth. Because truth requires individual courage. It requires you to stand alone, even when everyone says you're wrong. In The Sickness Unto Death, Kierkegaard describes the greatest tragedy of existence. It's not suffering. It's not physical pain. It's living without being yourself. It's existing as a copy, as an echo of others' opinions, as a puppet that repeats what it hears without questioning. He said the deepest despair is when you don't even realize you're in despair. When you're so lost in the crowd that you've forgotten there's a you separate from it. Look around you. How many people do you know who truly think for themselves? How many simply repeat what their social group expects them to say? The hardest question: are you doing this now, without realizing it? Here's a disturbing truth. Today's lies are more sophisticated than any historical propaganda. In the 1930s and 1940s, totalitarian regimes used propaganda to control masses. They had radio, newspapers, rallies. It was manipulation, but it was obvious to anyone paying attention. Today, manipulation is invisible. It hides in algorithms, in personalized feeds, in confirmation bubbles that make you believe everyone thinks like you. Digital platforms don't show reality. They show a reality designed for you. A reality that confirms your beliefs, that inflames your emotions, that keeps you clicking, sharing, reacting. And each reaction of yours feeds the system, teaches the machine to manipulate you better next time. Let's do a thought experiment. Think about the last heated discussion you had online or in person about politics, religion, or social values. Were you trying to understand the other side? Or were you just defending your position? The truth is painful. Most of us don't seek truth in discussions. We seek victory. This has a name in psychology: motivated reasoning. Your brain uses reason not to discover what's true, but to justify what you already believe. Imagine a scale. On one side, evidence supporting your belief. On the other, evidence contradicting it. A rational brain would weigh both sides equally, but that's not what we do. We immediately accept favorable evidence and ferociously attack contrary evidence. We look for holes, inconsistencies, hidden motives. Result: our reason becomes a lawyer for our emotions, not an impartial judge of truth. Kierkegaard had a radical proposal. He said truth is subjective, but not in the modern relativist sense of everyone has their truth. He meant something deeper. Truth requires personal commitment, an existential choice, a leap of faith you make alone without the security of the crowd. For Kierkegaard, you only find truth when you have the courage to stand alone with it, when you're willing to be ridiculed, rejected, isolated for defending what you've discovered. How many times have you silenced an opinion because you knew the group wouldn't like it? How many times have you pretended to agree to avoid conflict? I'm not talking about being stubborn or arrogant. I'm talking about having intellectual integrity, about valuing truth more than social approval. How lies become reality. Here's the frightening mechanism. A lie repeated 1,000 times doesn't become truth, but it becomes acceptable. Joseph Goebbels, Nazi propaganda minister, understood this perfectly. He knew you don't need to make people completely believe. You just need to make them doubt the truth. Today, this operates at unimaginable levels. You're exposed to thousands of micro-lies daily, sensationalist headlines, distorted statistics, images out of context, fabricated quotes. Each one individually might not convince you, but the cumulative effect is devastating. You start doubting everything, and when you trust nothing, you become vulnerable to believing anything. It's like a mental virus. It doesn't kill your reason instantly. It gradually weakens it until it can no longer resist infection. Here's a cruel paradox. We have more access to information than any generation in history. Entire libraries in the palm of our hand. All human knowledge available with a few taps on the screen. And yet, we're one of the most manipulable generations in history. Why? Because information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom. You can have access to 1,000 scientific articles and understand none of them. You can watch hundreds of educational videos and learn nothing deep. You can read thousands of opinions and not form your own. The problem isn't lack of information. It's lack of critical thinking. It's the inability to separate truth from propaganda, fact from fiction, argument from emotional manipulation. And this inability isn't accidental. It's cultivated. Because people who think critically are difficult to control. Kierkegaard saw the danger of collective mentality. He realized that when people identify primarily with a group, they give up individual thought. You stop asking, "What do I think?" and start asking, "What does my group think?" Observe this in action. People don't form opinions about complex issues through careful analysis. They check what their team is saying and repeat it. Left versus right, conservatives versus progressives, religious versus secular. Tribal loyalty replaces the search for truth. And here's the deadly trick. Each side accuses the other of collective stupidity while being blind to their own. Each side thinks only the other is being manipulated. The reality? Everyone is, to different degrees with different narratives, but all trapped in their bubbles. Kierkegaard feared a world where individuality would be crushed by the mass, where people would lose the ability to exist authentically. Look around. How many people do you know who are genuinely original in their thinking? Who arrived at their conclusions through deep personal reflection? Or are most products of their environment, echoes of their social feeds, reproducers of sound bites and slogans? The question isn't about intelligence. Brilliant people fall into this. The question is about courage. Courage to think alone. Courage to question your own group. Courage to change your mind when evidence demands it. And that courage is in critical shortage. There's a psychological cost to following the crowd without questioning. Kierkegaard called this unconscious despair. You live a life that isn't yours. You defend ideas you never examined. You participate in tribes that chose you, not the other way around. And underneath it all, there's an emptiness, a feeling that something is missing, that you're playing a role instead of living authentically. That emptiness is your soul screaming for truth, for authenticity, for the courage to be who you really are, not who the collective expects you to be. But recognizing this is terrifying, because it means taking total responsibility for your beliefs. It means no longer having the security of the crowd to validate your choices. Escaping this mental matrix requires brutal work and ruthless honesty. First, accept that you have been and are being manipulated. Not sometimes, constantly, from all sides, including sources you trust. Second, develop the habit of pausing. Before reacting to any information, stop. Breathe. Ask, who benefits if I believe this? Third, actively seek perspectives that challenge your beliefs. Not to mentally attack them, but to genuinely understand them. Fourth, admit ignorance. The three most powerful words in any discussion are, "I don't know." They open space for genuine learning. Fifth, value truth above consistency. If you discover you were wrong, celebrate. It means you grew. Kierkegaard had a devastating phrase: dare to be yourself. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary, because being yourself means thinking for yourself, questioning everything, including your own certainties. It means accepting that you'll be alone sometimes, that your group might reject you, that you'll lose friends who don't tolerate disagreement, But in return, you gain something priceless: your soul, your integrity, your humanity. You stop being a character in someone else's story and become the protagonist of your own. Here's the final truth. In a world dominated by collective lies, thinking for yourself is the most revolutionary act possible. Every time you pause to reflect instead of react, you're fighting. Every time you admit, "I don't know," you're resisting. Every time you question your own group, you're awakening. And this frightens power systems, because their control depends on masses that don't think, on tribes fighting each other, on people so trapped in their bubbles they never question the reality fabricated for them. But when you wake up, you see through the illusions. You stop being manipulable. You become dangerous to any system based on lies. You've reached the decision point. You can close this video and return to the comfort of conformity. Go back to your bubble. Continue believing what's convenient to believe. Or you can choose the harder path. The path of truth. The path Kierkegaard walked when he stood alone against all of Christianity in his time. Because truth has a price. It requires you to abandon comfortable certainties, to face the possibility of being wrong about everything, to accept the existential anguish of thinking for yourself. But in return, it offers something no lie can give: real freedom. Not the illusion of freedom, but genuine intellectual and spiritual autonomy. The collapse of reason isn't inevitable, but recovery requires an individual revolution multiplied by millions. It requires each person to assume the terrifying responsibility of thinking for themselves, of questioning everything, of valuing truth above tribal comfort. The world doesn't need more voices shouting. It needs awakened minds, courageous minds, minds willing to stand alone if necessary. And if you've made it this far, you've already begun. The seed of doubt has been planted. The question now is, will you have the courage to water it? If this message touched you, share it. Leave a comment with your reflections. And remember, in a world of collective lies, individual truth is revolutionary. Thank you for watching. Until the next video.